Hello and welcome back to another episode of Dear Nicole Dilemmas. So firstly, thank you for sending in your dilemmas. If you haven't, there's a form in the chat box, so feel free to send in your monthly dilemmas. This month, we're going to be talking about ghosting. Something that I think most people have experienced and something that I know a lot of people struggle with. I have personally been the victim of ghosting, and I'm here to tell you how to navigate it because it is probably one of the worst feelings that people can go through. If this is you, then I've got you. I'm gonna hold your hand through this thing. So, here we go. Dear Nicole, I was dating this guy for 4 months. He was obsessed, sending flowers, weekend trips, deep conversations about how different I was. He even introduced me to his sister. Sorry, I'm laughing because this just makes me feel sick. Then one day, silent. I messaged him thinking something awful had happened. Nope, he was alive and well, posting thirst traps and out with his friends. It's like I got erased. And the worst part is that his sister, I'm so sorry, his sister still watches my stories. Was I just entertainment until someone better came along? I feel like a fool. Okay, firstly, I'm sorry that this has happened to you. This is honestly like one of the worst things that people can go through. It's awful. What I would say though, the first thing that I thought was interesting was you said he was obsessed. And that to me is a little bit of a red flag because I'm like, was he love bombing you? Was he coming in a little bit hot because of that dopamine, because of that excitement, but actually it was unsubstantiated in a potential for long-term commitment? You know, the flowers and the weekend trips, it all sounds really nice, but the word that I got there, obsessed, got me thinking that maybe he was love bombing you. And that is a classic example of something that you do not want. Those red flags are something that we should not ignore. That's something for you to take on board and figure out if maybe people need to show up a little bit differently for you. With that being said, 4 months is not nothing. And the fact that you guys went away and these deep conversations can really leave you feeling confused. And so, especially being introduced to his sister, what I will say is that I think people that are not emotionally aware or emotionally capable, they like to dive in without actually realizing how they've full throttled into something. And that's a classic behavior of somebody who doesn't fully understand their own emotions. And so the take-home message here is that this isn't about you, even though you were involved, and that you do not deserve to be treated like this at all. Like, no one deserves to be treated like this. This is horrible. But it is about this person, and that unfortunately, this person clearly doesn't have the emotional capacity and understanding to maybe walk into something with a little bit more care and a little bit more conscious effort. Because to pace yourself in those beginning stages of a relationship is also a bit of an art in itself. And the thing is, it's like, it's two sides of the same coin. It's really nice to dive in, of course, and we should dive in. We should really just enjoy it as well. But there's also a fine line between this is exciting and this is actually just we're getting carried away too much. And that is when emotions can get a little bit confusing. And that is when people tend to dive into a relationship and start, planning weekend trips away. But then actually in hindsight realize that they probably didn't have the emotional capacity for a relationship. For your own peace, I would probably mute the sister from your stories. I know that it's hard to try and move on from something like this, especially when you were dragged into something so exciting and so fun. But ghosting for me is kind of like a blessing in disguise, because you're better off finding out now at month 4 than at like year 4 when they start to cheat on you or they start to manipulate you or lie to you because they don't have the emotional capacity to actually be honest with themselves, let alone somebody else. And so even though it sucks, 4 months is not nothing, it's actually better that it happened now. The other thing I want to say is that you're going to think, I cracked my heart open for somebody and now I feel like a fool. You did say that. You said I felt like a fool. You didn't crack your heart open for somebody else. You cracked your heart open for yourself so you can learn how much you can love, how much excitement you can let in. And that's really a beautiful thing because it means that you're capable. It means that you have the capacity. And I think that you shouldn't close yourself off because other people don't. I hope that was helpful. Dear Nicole, the chemistry was unreal. We've been dating for a few weeks. We had those 2 a.m. deep conversations and finally spent the night together. The next morning, he kissed me, told me how amazing it was, and promised to call. And then nothing. He ghosted me so hard, you'd think I imagined the whole thing. But plot twist, 2 days later, I saw him on a dating app with an updated profile picture. I felt like I was just the notch on his belt. How do you come back from that kind of humiliation? That really sucks because we put in as many things possible to mitigate these circumstances, right? It's like we can't predict the outcome of a model, of a situation, without knowing all the variables, but we try and plug the variables in a way that we understand what the model is going to give us, right? That's how experiments work. And so when you open yourself up to vulnerability like this and then someone uses it, it's horrible, especially, when there's emotions being involved, and obviously spending the night together is huge there. And so I can totally see how you'd feel used, and I'm sorry that you've gone through that, and I know so many people that have gone through that. The problem with this situation is that, and I'm explaining it, I'm not excusing it, is that when we are in an anticipation of a reward, dopamine rises so much that you can override the liking part of something because you want it so badly. Now, the classic example is drug addictions or gambling. You want the outcome so badly, you want the reward so badly, but the problem is that when dopamine rises, it actually drops when you receive the expected reward. Okay, and this is why when it drops, people can actually show their true colors. Now, the other thing is that wanting and liking follow two very distinct pathways in the brain. But it's interesting because the mechanisms involved are two very different things. And so unfortunately, people end up in these kind of like dopaminergic cycles where they are seeking the reward, thinking that that's what they want and they like. And then once they get it, they realize that actually it was just a game or just a chase. What can you do about it? I mean, nothing really, in the sense that if you're emotionally aware enough to know that you like someone and you want them, then that's a beautiful thing. Not everyone is there. And so the great thing, I know great is an interesting word in this context, but the great thing about having your heart broken and being in these situations is that your ability to see the red flags, to see the signs, it gets a little bit more finely tuned, okay? So I actually had a recent situationship. Yes, I did have one of those. Similar situation in the sense that in hindsight, I wasn't overly surprised when I got that message from that person. I was kind of like, yeah, actually, if I probably put in better boundaries and call things what I felt like they were at the time, I probably wouldn't have been in that situation, but that required me to make some very tough decisions that I probably, if I'm really honest with myself, wasn't willing to implement because I was curious. Because I was like, oh, but maybe if we hang out, it will be different. And I hate to admit it, but it is kind of the truth. Now, this person, I feel like maybe did fumble me a little bit, but I think that as a individual that can take responsibility for my actions, I probably could have taken control of the situation a little bit sooner before it got to that point where I got my heart broken. Now, I don't know if that's the same case for you, because sometimes it truly is just they paint a particular picture and then they show you somebody completely different, which is kind of what happened to me. But I saw that before I got to interact with the person, and that's when I should have really been honest with myself and said, hey, actually, this doesn't really feel right for me anymore. But as I said, I was just so curious about wanting to know what the outcome was, is that I dove in anyway. And that in itself is not a bad thing either. Like, it's a cool thing that you can do that. It's curiosity is what keeps us going. And so reframe that as, yes, it sucks and it hurts and no one wants to feel like that, but you still got to experience something exciting and fun for a little bit, right? Maybe, I don't know. And now you're going to be more finely tuned to the signs. So the next time somebody doesn't show up for you in the way that you want them to, you're going to be like, hey, I can call it now for what it is, which is exactly what I'm going to do. When somebody doesn't show up the way that I want them to, I'm not going to be like, oh, but maybe. No, it's a no. If it's not a full body yes, it's not a full body yes. It's a full body no. And so just one more thing I want to add to this is that people can also only hide their true selves for so long. Generally speaking, that's around 3 months-ish. after that time, their true personalities will start to come out. And that is because people will show you a side that they want you to see, not the side that they actually are. I'm not saying that you need to hold out for 3 months, but learning to properly assess people can help you to predict that model, that outcome a little bit better. And that comes with experience. So really, this is a win. This is a win because now you know, you have experience, you have an understanding, you have built a bigger database of what you want and what you don't want in relationships. I'm sorry that this happened to you. It is not a reflection on you. It is a reflection on this person just not understanding that they were in a dopaminergic drive to attain a reward, and that they were actually overriding a very important part of wanting these things, and that is the liking part. You're obviously emotionally aware enough to be able to know that you want it and like this person. I hope this helps. Dear Nicole, it started out like a movie. He was obsessed, there's that word again, always texting, planning dates, saying he couldn't believe his luck, then the switch. The text got dry, the good morning messages stopped, and suddenly he was too busy for plans. But his Instagram shows him on nights out, living his best life. I feel like I'm being ghosted in slow motion. Is he just too cowardly to say it's over, or am I being paranoid? My gut says he's already mentally checked out. Your gut is always right. And your gut is actually the product of your subconscious brain. So you have a database of everything you've ever experienced. Have you ever had that feeling when you smell something and it reminds you of a memory when you were like 8 years old? That memory is still in there. You just can't access it all the time. But every piece of information you've ever experienced is in there somewhere. And what the great thing about the brain is that it cross-references subconsciously all of the single time with information. So when you feel a particular way, it's not just a gut feeling, it is quite literally your brain telling you that the patterns that it understands, it has an answer to this problem. The solution is there. It's just that we can confuse ourselves sometimes because we want a different outcome. We want this person to be different. We want them to go back to the way that they were. And so even though the solution is simple, it is not easy, it is simple. It is only complicated because you want a different outcome. Now, this is the thing. We have to meet people where they're at, not where we want them to be. And sometimes we actually start to begin liking who we think this person is, not who they actually are. And this is a wonderful opportunity to take this as it is, take the facts, this person is not showing up for you the way that you want them to, and so it is time to go. It is time to move on. It is time to cut your losses and say, hey, I'm done because I deserve better. And you can actually even just like, I don't know, maybe do that. It's like, I'm too hot for this and move on. Because we hold on to what we wanted this person to be. This person is not who they said they were. This person is not who you want them to be. And so take that as a fact instead of trying to manipulate the situations that you can still get an outcome that suits your needs, your wants. There are many people in the world that are going to show up for you in the right way. And so if your gut is telling you that they're pulling away, they most likely are. And you're better off just cutting it now because we deserve better. I hope you found this helpful. Please leave your dilemmas in the comment section, or if you want to drop it in the form, then please do so. I answer dilemmas every single month. I've now categorized them into categories. So this one is ghosting / pulling back. If you have a dilemma, drop it. I'm here to help you. I encourage you to listen to all of them because it seems like we're all going through very, very similar experiences through life, including me, who has a lot of experience in these situations. But nonetheless, we're in it together. If you're new here, I'm Nicole. I explain the brain to make life a little bit less scary, because when we understand what is going on, the emphasis of us being the issue gets removed and we start to see things for what they are, and we start to understand that all of these behaviors are not a reflection of our worth. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. It's me, Nick, your pocket neuroscientist. Please like, comment, and subscribe.